Our next topic has to do with the President, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo Addo. He met party communicators this week. Now, when he met the party communicators, he decided to take advantage of that forum to state a few things categorically. Now, what the President is saying, and in that indeed, is that he is denied vehemently allegations that he's supporting one of the candidates seeking to lead the New Patriotic Party into the 2024 elections. He said his task and his focus is to see to the victory of the MPP in the upcoming polls. He's also saying that the allegation that government machinery is being used to support a candidate is false and must be treated with the contempt it deserves, and that he cannot impose a candidate on the party. We will subject what the President has said to some rigorous test. We'll interrogate that after this. Watch this.
The assertions, and it was made by your director, that by some in the party that government is somehow allegedly, quote, intimidating or, quote, coercing party faithful to throw their support behind one of the presidential aspirants. And we have to be open about it. The allegation is being made that the government is putting all its authority behind the vice president. I want to say in very clear terms to you and to the world, it is a false and malicious narrative. There's not a single truth to it. That's why I can beat my chest and I can say without any fear of contradiction, there's no one in the party, there is not a single person in the MPP who can say that I have asked him or her to support this or that aspirant. I have not done it, and I know why I haven't done it. I have not set out to dismiss any MMDC or any political appointee because they are supporting a particular aspirant. No minister, no deputy minister has been thrown out of his job or even been threatened because of their support for their preferred presidential aspirant. They're members of my cabinet who are openly campaigning for particular candidates who's not the vice president. It has not affected their presence in the cabinet. There's been no indication to them whatsoever that somehow or other I am disturbed by what they're doing. It's their right. They're party people. They can make whatever choice that they want, like all of you. You're entitled to make your own choices. I have my choice. I also have a vote. Yes. So, and nothing has come from here. No caveat has come from this Jubilee House to the party across the length and breadth of this party that candidate A rather than candidate B should be supported. There will be people who were my supporters who will make a choice. They're entitled to. The fact that many people, perhaps the majority, I don't know, of people who supported me now support another candidate doesn't mean that they're doing so at my behest. They're members of the party. They're entitled to make their own decision about who they want to support. Does that amount to intimidation or coercion? We should get away from that language. Our party is not that kind of a party. We know from the history of the MPP that a president cannot foist a candidate on this party against his wishes.
All right, so the president cannot impose a candidate on the MPP against his wishes. He says that's not going to be possible. That's certainly not, it's not feasible. Okay, so we would, Abdullah, do we have the video bites of some reactions from some of the other aspirants? If we do, we'll play it at some point during our conversation. Now, let me introduce my resource persons who've joined us this morning to have a conversation on this matter. Now, I have Mr. Kofi Tonto. He is a government spokesperson who's joined us this morning. Good morning, Kofi. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
How are you, my
Very
brother?
well. Yourself?
Wow. Small. We did.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And also, another very good friend of mine, Adele Ibn Sheikh Umar Ibrahim, who is a member of the NDC's communications team, who's also joined us this morning. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Moro.
Yeah. Now, let me state this, that, we had advertised earlier that we would be Mr. Alex Abefia, who is the Director of International Relations of the NDC's Secretariat, or Directorate, sorry, was supposed to have joined us, but something came up this morning, and so he couldn't make it. So in place of him, Adele Ibn Sheikh Umar Ibrahim is here in his stead, or to replace him. If, of course, he's more than capable of doing that. Adele, it's also good to see you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, mashallah. Wa alaikum salam. And hello to Kofi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the first time the two of you are meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, in person.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. You've either watched him on TV, he's also watched you on TV.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not met
But
physically
I
in
want to
person.
ask him,
Right.
is he
A sheikh.
yeah, or
Strictly
an
speaking.
imam or something? I don't know. I need
Okay,
some education.
So here's the thing. So in Islam, when you hear the word Ibn,
Right.
Ibn is pretty much like what you say, Mark, the
Right.
son of.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
So Adil is my name.
Okay.
Ibn, the
Son of Sheikh Umar Ibrahim.
So the son of Sheikh Umar Ibrahim.
Right.
Ah, okay.
Oh, I see. I
Okay,
see.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah. You
wonderful.
good?
So he
Yeah,
he is
because-
not the sheikh.
I'm not a Sheikh, my dad is.
Your dad, okay.
And it's
My
important.
name is Adil.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
important he throws that caveat. And some waka so when I shake, now we try and announce a sheikh.
Oh, no, I get you.
Oh, me put it. Me put
you
it.
know.
Me just hang on.
Meanings are- I know.
No, but no, it makes sense.
But the
be-
sheikh tag sometimes limits.
yeah,
you when
it makes
comes to-
sense because
Yeah.
when I went to Qatar
Right.
last year,
Okay.
I don't know, is it the ruler or what I don't know how they call the leader
ruler,
of
you can use the
Qatar.
ruler.
Yeah. It's the same situation. His name included, as you said, and then his father's name also, something like that.
Right.
So it makes sense. I've heard something similar.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Once
Well,
the Ibn is there, it takes care of everything.
everything
Yes.
makes
Right.
sense. Thank you for the
Yeah.
education.
What perhaps we need to ask him is whether he's aspiring to become a sheikh himself. I mean, you follow in the footsteps of your dad.
I have had a very good background, as a Muslim,
Right.
and I may not perhaps end up as a sheikh as my dad did. He had to go to Saudi Arabia and study, and had his doctor, sets on being a religious leader. The first ambassador that was sent from Saudi Arabia to Ghana to become the leader of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, so, but I do intend that, I would basically do some counseling and preaching, alongside the road.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
That's interesting. All
I
right.
will.
So we've seen what the president has said.
Yes.
And maybe I'll start from you, Mr. Kofi Tonto. Okay, before I come to you, I think it's only fair. There's some messages that have come through as far as the, how do you call it, our first conversation is concerned, which has to do with the economy. Now, let me just read some of the messages. It says that, so for instance, Kamaluddin, Alhaji Kamal Amasaman Bruni says that the more the media budget shows that the economy is beginning to show great signs of recovery and soon inflation will begin dropping. I wish Hajia Humu I would do the very best. I would do the very best of luck as she files the nominations on 10th August to the MPP parliamentary candidates to become the MP parliamentary candidate for Wa Central constituency. And he said, Salamu alaikum. Say, wa alaikum salam. All right, and this one here says that, Moro, I think this is the best interview I have watched on TV, you and Professor Bokwing. I think that Professor Bokwing is one of the best brains in this country. But as he said, we all must brace up. It looks like tough times ahead. And that's coming from Mamiya Obruni from Kaswa. And this one here says that, good morning, Mr. Moro. I think that the economy is what we're feeling. Forget about the economics. Fact of the matter is that every time I go to the market, prices of goods and services are going up, and it's really, really frustrating. These are really crazy times for us as Ghanaians. That's coming from Nanaya a champon from a Jiso in Kumasi. Okay. All right. So the rest I can't read because they are not airworthy. That's the thing. They are not. How do you call it? They're not the kinds of things that I'll be happy to share with my viewers this morning. So, if you can make your point without necessarily hurling insults at a politician here and there. That's not how we grow. We can grow our democracy. Somebody states their position, state your position. You don't need to go personal. Hurling insults at A, B, or C. It's you don't make an argument by insulting somebody. So once you insult somebody, I won't read your message. I'm so sorry about that. And it's not something that, maybe them say that it's not something that I'll be apologetic about. But let's do this. Mr. Kofi Tonto, so tell us, you are closer to the corridors of power. The president it's more like your uncle, your dad, you're very close to him. You've worked with him for so many years. Why do you think the president has found it necessary to state his position as far as this whole talk about him asking a whole government machinery to support, and here let's call it a spade and not a tool for digging, to support the vice president? He said it's not true. It's not. It's far from the truth, and that he doesn't think it will be in the interest of the party for him to throw his weight behind either the vice president or whoever, but even though he has a choice. Why do you think the president has decided to do this?
Well, a very good morning to you and to my brother and to our cherished viewers. I think we've all heard commentary in the media by some spokespersons and then also by the individuals themselves, alleging that one candidate is the established or establishment candidate. When that comment is made, it presupposes, or actually not presupposing, it directly means that the institution, which is the government, is behind the candidate against all other candidates. There was actually an interview of one of the candidates who made it categorically clear that the remaining candidates meet to sort of have deliberations among themselves outside of the vice president, and that at some point, if the needs be, they will take a decision to support one amongst them against the vice president. And the person made a categorical statement that the vice president is an establishment candidate. Essentially making a direct statement that the vice president is being sponsored or being promoted or being foisted
by the government,
people by the government, which by extension is the president. Some go further to even state individuals who are CEOs and ministers, etc., as the basis for their argument.
True.
Others even go further to say that the vice president is using state resources to campaign, and that it is going against other candidates. So I believe very strongly that the president made his statement, and categorically so, to sort of put away all of that fallacies, if you will, to say, no, this is an individual of his own repute. He's worked hard. He's gone through the mill to become a vice president. And on the basis of that, he's decided to contest. And by contesting, he happens to be a vice president. Which, by virtue of the position, he sort of gets some advantages, naturally.
Which is what you call incumbent advantage.
Yes. For example, if the vice president is traveling, he travels with state-sponsored security. Because he is the vice president.
True.
And let me put it on
record.
On record. That Dr. Bawumia is not the first person in the Jubilee House contesting for an election. President Akufo did it. President John Mahama did it. President Akufo Addo did it. And now Vice candidate Bawumia is also doing it. Now, are we to say that when the other persons were contesting as president, we shouldn't have provided them with, for example, state security?
Or your question being that does he cease to be a vice president just because he wants to contest?
Precisely.
Okay.
He doesn't cease to be a vice president. Right. Once he's a vice president, the state has some responsibility.
Right.
What then the vice president needs to do is to make a conscious effort not to abuse what the state offers him as a right.
Those privileges and courtesies.
Exactly. He ought to make a conscious effort not to abuse it.
Okay.
So it is important that we explain that the vice president doesn't even have a right to deny certain privileges. Let people get that.
So the vice president doesn't have an option of saying, oh, because I want to contest, don't give me state security. Don't do that. Don't do that. He can't say that.
He can't say that.
Okay.
He doesn't have the right to say that. So it is incumbent...
Unless he decides to resign his position as vice president. But for as long as he remains the vice president, whether he likes it or not, these are courtesies and privileges that will be accorded.
Precisely.
That's the point you're making.
And our laws do not require him to resign.
Right.
Our laws actually allow him...
You mean the party constitution?
No.
Or
our
the laws
law,
of this country?
our party constitution and our constitution
allows
of the
him to
nation
contest even as
allow
vice
him
president.
to contest even as a vice president.
Right. There's no legal fetter.
Exactly.
Right.
So once he's doing that, then what is incumbent on him is to ensure that he takes the right decisions, not to abuse state resources. But has he done that? Yes. I travel with him. And one, he's made a conscious effort to go everywhere on a bus. Everywhere. Two, he's made sure that his security detail are the only people following him on the bus. If they have to use other vehicles, as assigned by security protocols.
Right.
Because the security officers cannot be on the bus. You know, when a convoy is moving, there are protocols the convoy must follow. You must have the lead. You must have they have another one. I forgot the terminologies.
Okay.
But advance, lead, ambulance, and then technical. There's another team that's sort of, if there is an imminent attack, they are the first to react.
Okay.
Everything is designed by security protocol.
Right.
He cannot breach that.
He's entitled to it.
Exactly. So he's made sure that is the thing that is working. For us who are supporting him, we sit in mini buses.
In mini buses?
Not even the medium-sized buses. The small ovens.
Yes,
I should put it.
Yes, like
I think they call
Toyota Haze.
Toyota Haze.
That's what you guys said.
That's what we see.
Why?
Again, it's about making sure that you don't abuse what the state offers you.
But isn't that at your inconvenience as well? I mean,
course.
if you have your own private car, for instance, why can't you drive and follow the vice president?
But you see, optics is important as substance.
True.
I may have my car, and I may choose to follow the vice president, but the person standing on the street may not know that this is my car. Look, President Mahama went to Kumasi, for example. I counted about 30 vehicles.
Right.
But even though I'm MPP, I know within my heart President Mahama didn't take 30 vehicles to Kumasi.
Right.
All the other people following, at most, he probably brought 5 cars or 6 cars.
Right.
All the other people are just, quote unquote, with respect, hangers on.
True.
Or members of the wherever he's visiting, who happen to have their own vehicles or whatever. Right. The same happens to the president. The president goes to Kumasi. The immediate convoy is about 9 vehicles. For the vice president, about 9, at most 10 vehicles. Everything else you see are individuals in their own cars.
Okay.
But optics is important as substance.
Right.
So you can debate the substance, but if you get the optics wrong, you get everything wrong.
That's right. So back to the issue about what the vice president himself is doing in his own personal capacity to make sure that he doesn't abuse the privilege. And you talked about, for instance, those of you who follow him on his campaign, are even made to sit in an Evan bus
Yes.
because of the optics. So
Exactly.
what else has the vice president done to sort of ward off this perception that he has state machinery behind him, apart from what you
Another
just said?
thing he's done is he's made a conscious effort
Okay.
not to use state resources for what he's doing.
Okay, what state resources means?
For example, you know that recently some trucks came out with pictures saying that the vice president is buying cars.
Yes,
blah,
yes,
blah,
yes,
blah.
yes.
No, those were vehicles people donated to him.
To his
Even the
campaign.
bus was
Okay.
donated
Okay.
to support the campaign.
Mm.
So that is what he's doing. Now, on the bit about individuals who are supporting the vice president.
I'll come to that bit.
Okay.
I'll come to that
All
bit
right.
because, of course, I agree with you. That's a very important, factor
Yeah.
a very important factor which has contributed to people actually, believing that the vice president is being supported by state machinery because it's both resource-wise, which is logistics, and also so it's both logistical resources
human
and
resources,
human resources.
yeah.
So we'll come to the human resources part because, for instance, you're a government spokesperson,
Yeah.
but you have publicly said that look, you think the vice president will make would make a better choice or the best choice amongst all the other persons, even though they are qualified in their own right. So, and that's democratic. It's
Yeah.
you have a choice to do. So, again, some say, why do we even have government spokespersons supporting the vice president? But we heard the president say everybody's entitled to do that. So I'll come back to you on that. But Adele, I mean, you under normal circumstances, you would say you want to chop your home matter. This is an internal NPP issue, but the NDC is also interested in who emerges as the leader of the NPP going into
Certainly.
the 2024 elections.
Certainly.
And whoever emerges will then shape and determine, for instance, whatever strategies you intend to put out
Certainly.
in order to, in order to beat, quote and unquote, that
Exactly.
particular candidate.
Exactly.
So, from where you sit, do you also, and of course, maybe I should be asking you a question because I've heard some members of some communicators of the NDC say that they've said the same thing. He's an establishment candidate. What are the reasons why? That's of course if you share in the opinion that have been expressed by some
Very
of the
well.
other
Very well.
communicators.
Very well.
What would you say are the basis? What would be the basis for you to also conclude
Right.
that indeed there's no doubt, absolutely no doubt that
Right.
Dr. Bawumia is an establishment candidate?
Right.
And does the president's commentary denying the fact that he doesn't support any of them, then we'll just end the story?
Very well.
We'll now allow sleeping dogs to lie because the man says he's not interested in supporting anybody. I mean, he's not throwing his support behind any of the candidates.
Moro, in order to discuss this topic
Right.
and appreciate the magnitude
Right.
of what we're dealing with, we may have to go a bit backward. And then to lay the foundations for this conversation, I must also indicate to you that the basic principle is that for anybody that speaks, your word is supposed to be your bond.
Right.
What you say is what we judge you with.
Right.
So I'll take you back a little bit. I have said on countless occasions on different platforms that these very elections, these very primaries the MPP is about to undertake is one that is very, very, very dangerous. And regardless of who emerges, there is a major reconciliation they have to consider, whether they like it or not. It's a win, you lose, lose, you lose kind of situation. But let me take you back a little bit to 2008. We all saw what happened when, President Akufo was then the president, and these conversations we're having today kind of came up, at the time. And today is probably a repetition of what perhaps happened back then. Now, we had heard at the time people indicate that President Akufo had a particular candidate.
Yeah.
And even though he didn't have to say it in exact words, he gave some descriptions which people could actually, align themselves to. go forward, back and forth. That created some tension, between His Excellency Akufo Addo's camp and, Kufuor's camp, even after he won the presidency. These things are obvious. They are things that, we have to basically fight or, go through. So,
in fact, there were talk about some persons who had been sidelined, who were not given positions because they didn't support the. They were all
these things basically
very speculative. Yeah.
Very, very speculative, but they did come through.
Right.
Okay. So now that happened. Then you have the issue of Aliu Mahama contesting in that same elections, Akufo Addo, Alan Chimanting, all of them, and what happened to him. I want to bring you to two scenarios and why I think that the president's conversations and things he has said in recent past makes it difficult for me to believe what he just said.
You don't believe him?
No, I don't believe it. Look, His Excellency the President is one person that when he speaks, and the Vice President and Ken Ofori-Atta, these are people when they speak. If they give me a check to go to the bank, I won't go with it. I don't take their words for what it is. That was why I told you earlier that, your word is supposed to be your bond. If you have a president who can sit on national television like he did earlier, and it's the mannerism and the way he says it and the attitude and the facial expressions with which he says it. You sit back and you go like, this man is just unique, he's just, but it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to get it done. We sat here, we saw him on TV. He said, look, I hear all these NDC people talking, everybody just rubbing their mouth. Look, I want to tell you on authority, there will be no haircuts. You don't do that. When you say things, as a leader, we're following you. All of us. I'm like a son. And when I look at my president on TV, I want to see him say something and follow through, so all of us are just basically learning from it. I can mention to you on this platform countless of things the president has said and didn't come to fruition. But let's leave that. We'll come to it. So, we did all that, and it's all done. Back then, Aliu Mahama lost the elections. Mm-hmm. And then there's this narrative of, it's because he's a Northerner and blah, blah, blah. This is an Akan party. And today we're hearing people from their party, indicate that, we hear people say, it's not an Akan party. The truth is, it is an Akan party. Let's make it clear. I've had people speak that from Alan's camp.
You're saying that even if Dr. Bawumia wins and becomes the flag bearer or emerges the flag bearer of the MPP, he won't change that tag?
Okay, so so I'm trying to tell you, I'm giving you two stories. I'm saying that there are two schools of thought.
Right.
One sect believing that it is incumbent and it is important that Dr. Bawumia emerges as the flag bearer in order to diffuse that.
Right.
There's one camp that believes that. They believe that if this doesn't happen, then the Northern caucus within the MPP will go like, okay, we're pretty much, like hoes and
and so they'll rebel.
They'll probably rebel.
Right.
I've had some communicators within the MPP who are Northerners. We've gone on shows together, Marhaba and all, and go like, this is our time.
Right.
I had an MPP communicator, Kamal Dean, who sat with me on Baina TV and then said on national TV that, Adele, look, you're a Northerner, you're a Muslim, I'm Muslim, you should support me, even though I'm from a different party. So they have that. Then there is the other group who believes that, look, it's a traditional thing. His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo stood against Alan, even when there was no, clear cut who is supposed to be and we're supposed to go for another contest. Alan came through and said, look, I'm going to let it go. For certain reasons, I'm going to let it go so His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo could do. And when His Excellency the President stood on the platform to indicate, he said, look, I appreciate what you have done, and you are going to be next. There are certain people who are now starting to bring all those stories and feel that, look, there are two things. Yeah. But now let me take you to what His Excellency the President, Akufo-Addo, today believed should have happened in 2008. In fact, when it came up that we needed to go for that runoff, there were people who actually felt like, look, President Kufuor could just take a decision. You can just say state of emergency. Something could have just happened. By all means, by any means necessary, we could have maintained that seat. It wasn't supposed to go back to the NDC. And then you juxtapose that to statements from the president today when he talks about the fact that we're going to break the aid, when he talks about the fact that whether you like it or not, I'm going to hand over to an MPP government, I am going to hand over to, it's consistent. There's consistency. I will hand over to an MPP government. I will hand over to an MPP person. I will hand over to an MPP person. It is not just a statement. If there's anything this president has been good at, the ills he's very consistent when it comes to making sure that the ills that we wouldn't want to see happens. But when it comes to the good morals, he's not good in holding up to it. He hasn't been. He hasn't shown any signs of it.
So you're saying, so essentially what you're saying is that you do not trust the president because as far as you're concerned, he suffers a credibility deficit.
Moro.
And so if the president tells us that he's not supporting the candidate, we shouldn't take him,
Moro,
we shouldn't take him seriously.
Your word is your bond.
And you're giving us examples to show why we shouldn't trust the president.
Your word is your bond.
What you haven't told me is,
Right.
what are some of the things that you've seen as
Right.
far as the vice president's campaign is concerned for you to draw that convenient conclusion that the president is supporting him? You haven't really convinced me, because on what basis would you say the president supported the vice president?
I'm bringing you. Now, on party lines, maybe Kofi would probably want to assist me with this.
Right.
On party lines.
Why would I assist you in my party stuff? That's not your house matter.
No, please, Kofi.
Okay, so what I sought to indicate is that if I say something which is not the way your party runs, you can call my attention to it.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
That works?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
great. So what I'm basically saying is this. You are, for example, in government. For you to come out categorically and indicate that your support is for the vice
yeah.
president. For me, I don't know what your constitution says, but I don't think it is appropriate.
Okay.
You see, when you're running a family affair and you have 4 or 5 sons, okay, and you indicate that these are my sons, I need you to go into a competition and, bring me one, you do not openly come out and say, I am for this or I am for that. And this is something that cuts across,
Are you referring to me or the president?
I think it's a general principle.
I'm
he's
making
established.
I'm establishing a general
Yeah,
principle.
yeah.
You understand? So you don't do that. You know
Right.
why? Because as the leader,
Yeah.
every other person is under you.
Okay.
Those who support Alan, those who support Baumia, those who probably support Kennedy Japan, every other person is under you.
Okay.
You're the one person who is supposed to set that example for everybody else. Now, when you have presidential staffers, when you have people, ministers of state, openly indicate that this is the candidate we're going for, I mean, it is only obvious that you would want to sit back and say, well, government is behind this candidate.
You have already taken us into the arena of personnel that are throwing their support
Certainly.
For the vice president. Why you think that?
Exactly.
Let me do this quickly.
Very
I beg
well.
you.
Very well.
Let me speak to Dr. Benjamin Ochre Ankra, who is a governance analyst and also a lecturer of the Central University here in Accra. Doc, Benjamin, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages on Metro Television.
Good morning, and good morning to your panelists as well.
Okay. Do you think it was necessary for the president to issue? Please switch your video on so that we can so the viewers can see who we're talking to. Or the camera on so that our viewers can see you, sir.
Yes, I'm trying. My device is giving me a problem.
It's giving you a
I'm trying.
problem.
It
Okay.
says unable to access camera. I don't know what exactly
What a
is
problem
wrong.
is. Okay. All right. So let's proceed then. Let's move on. Let's carry on. Do you think it was necessary for the president to have issued this caveat, which is to say, those of you who are saying that I'm throwing my support for any of the candidates are not telling the truth. You're telling lies. I do not support any of the candidates. It is my responsibility as the president to make sure that the NPP chalks victory in 2024. So if I'm seen supporting openly any of the candidates, that would not help. And so I will not do that. So stop spreading those lies. Do you think it was necessary for the president to have said that? And if it was necessary, what do you think this has done to the dynamics in terms of the dynamics of the campaign?
Well, it becomes necessary when especially the other contestants have a feeling that they are disadvantaged because, the president wields a lot of control in the party, and especially when he has given appointments to over 1,000 people. So when it is said that the president supports you, then obviously it goes to add to your support base. Be that as it may, the president did mention that he has somebody that he supports and that he will vote. So sometimes you need not say it, but your actions will go to depict whether or not you support a particular candidate. Let's be real here. It is the president who appointed him as his running mate to have become the vice president. So if there's somebody who trusts the vice president and his capability, then it must be the president. So surely he would support him, but because you do not want to create that level of enmity between the people, you don't want to bring that friction to a height that you will not be able to resolve. So it is good that the president came out to say, I don't support anyone, but clearly, and you look at all the things happening, it will be very difficult for one to accept that indeed the president does not support the vice president. That can only be said, but in reality, we say it must be seen, it must be felt, it must be believed. And indeed, all the other candidates do know that the president supports the vice president. But here, we have to be careful here that if he does not do so professionally, if the vice president happens to win the candidature, he would need the support of all the other candidates to be able to do well in the main election. Remember, President Mahama has equally been well prepared. He's been president before, and he knows how to contest for an election. So he's just waiting for whoever comes. But let's ask the question, why is it that any time an MPP person is talking, whether it concerns the NDC or not, they want to link that particular argument with President Mahama? And why is it that any time an MPP, NDC person is making a submission, they do all they can to link Dr. Bawumia to their submissions? There must be something unique about these two people. So the people have worked, Dr. Bawumia has worked, his people know him. He's conducted himself so well. He's carried the party from nowhere to somewhere, especially when you look at his records and the trajectory in terms of the votes that are won by the MPP in the northern part of Ghana. Since his inclusion, it's gone up. So he's worked for himself, but here you don't want somebody to say, because the president said, but you know, sometimes people can even use the president's name to do things that he may not even be aware of. But could it be just coincidental that majority of the appointees tend to support the vice president? Is it that he has distinguished himself such that he has distinguished himself such that everybody wants to associate with him, or they are being coerced? That we are unable to tell. But it is good that the president says it so that everybody goes, at least rest assured that the president is neutral, though you and I will know that he cannot be neutral.
But you say, for instance, that it is possible that there are certain persons within the MPP who are doing certain things in the name of the president, and so is giving, rise to this perception or suspicion that the president is fully behind Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, what can the president do, under the circumstances? If indeed this is what is happening. But he said, for instance, that, look, I don't have a problem with anybody supporting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia because, it's a democratic party, and he acknowledges that the fact that some of his appointees are supporting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, or most of them are supporting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, it sort of lends credence to that suspicion that he is an establishment candidate. But then he goes ahead to say, yes, there are, some other persons within my government who are also supporting, Alan Tremanting. So then, for him, it's neither here nor there as to whether there's an establishment backing or the state machinery behind Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. What else can the president do beyond the talk? Because you said it must just not be said, but it must be seen to be happening. What else can the president do to be able to ward off this perception?
It must be felt. It must be seen. It must be felt that whenever they have such a contest, whenever they are going to meet people, he must also declare this, though he has said. He must go ahead to say to all the contestants that, especially Dr. Bawumia's camp and his supporters, that do not use my name. Go and campaign on your own, based on your own capability. Those who believe in the strength and capabilities of Dr. Bawumia, go and espouse that rather than trying to attach the president's name. Because when you do that, a day will come. Look, whether we like it or not, NDC has a 44% of the votes that will be conducted next year. NDC has 44 already. MPP has 44 already. What will be left is what these two parties will go and share amongst the other smaller parties. But here, if some of your people get aggrieved, and then they say that because the president supported this candidate, and that is why I didn't win, so go and do it. I will not waste my time. I will not spend my resources to support, because you have said that you are capable, you can do it on your own. When that happens, and you lose 2% of your existing 44, or if you're unable to get extra aside from your 44, then likely you are going to lose the election. And that is why the president, though he has said it, he has to also alert the people that, hey, whenever you go out there, do not use my name. Go and do things on your own. Do not use premises of state machinery to do this. Do not use anything that government has direct control over. When you do this, then people are now seeing that indeed it is not state that is backing him. But here, let's also be a bit real that all the people who are supporting him, whether coerced or not, they have the right to decide which camp they belong. And Honorable Peter Amewu supports the former trade minister, and he's still in cabinet. Nobody has chastised him. Nobody has accused him of anything. He has a right. Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, my own friend, also equally supports Dr. Bawumia, Honorable Alan Tremartin. So yes, if you want to conduct your campaign, just do it such that everybody around will know that indeed it is the man's own capability, his own strength, what he is capable of doing. I had the opportunity to have worked with him for a while at Central University, where he used to do these public lecture series. You should know him, that he's able to do things on his own. But if he is not careful, there are some of the shortfalls of this government that are likely to also affect his candidature. Remember, the economy is staring us in the face. So much as he wants to do it on his own, there are other factors that will surely affect him because he's been a part of this government. It is my wish that they will conduct their election so peacefully and without much rancor, without those kind of difficulties that will not allow them to call the other losing candidates and say, guys, let's come together. After all, we are one big family, so that we campaign. Especially when they win, nobody should go about teasing the other because they are 10. Whether we like it or not, certainly one person will win. What are they doing as a party? What are they doing irrespective of which camp will win? What are they doing now? How are they conducting themselves such that when they win, they will be able to say, let us put our arsenals together and work, because the ultimate aim is to just win election and also serve Mother Ghana. But if you are not careful and all you know is to just win primaries, there's a bigger task ahead. And as I said, NDC will see this election as it is easy for NDC to win than to lose. So whoever wins the MPP primaries has a daunting task to be able to also work as against the policies of the NDC. So here we are. Surely it will happen. Yes, somebody will win, somebody will lose. But the party machinery, especially the national executives, have got a lot to do such that they are able to pull their resources together. They are able to reconcile where necessary, that they are able to conduct the election and contest meaningfully. If only they are willing to win.
All right, Dr. Benjamin Ochiankra, thank you very much for your time, and have a good day, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Right. Now, Kofi, let me come to you now. Now, this situation where we have a lot of government appointees following the vice, well, not all of them, but some of them following the vice president, and also you see a lot of them throwing their support publicly behind the vice president, and how that sort of raises higher the suspicion that it appears that establishment is doing everything possible to make sure that some have used the word, impose the vice president on him. Why do we have that case? We're told about 100 and something MPs are supporting the vice president. We're told a lot of MMDCs and MCs, mayors, and so on and so forth, all throwing their support for the vice president. What's happening? Are they being forced to do so?
Let me give you a personal story.
Okay.
I've met some of the candidates
Okay.
as a young person.
Right.
some for a while, some in various instances. Some of them have had, presidential ambition for quite a time.
Right.
None of them persuaded me or did anything to attract me to them.
Okay.
None of them made an effort necessarily to say that this is my ambition, so as a young person, I would like for you to support me. Sometimes it may not even be direct, but some people may find a way of sort of bringing you under their wing. They may not directly tell you what their intent is, but they will find a way to bring you under their wing and then gradually woo you to their side. So you sort of become attached to the individual. So even if you like a different candidate, you are sort of bound by virtue of the attachment or relationship you've built with the person over a period to sort of support the person.
Okay.
For example, there are several people who support the Honorable Alan Kojo Kyerematen,
Right.
not because they hate Dr. Bawumia. At least on a cursory level, somebody like OPK,
Right.
MP for Primaries,
He's a very good friend, isn't it?
they've been together for a long time.
Right.
I don't think OPK hates Dr. Bawumia. But the commitment level OPK has with Dr. Alan Kyerematen,
It's stronger.
it will be very difficult for OPK to come and support Dr. Bawumia.
Right.
The same with the Honorable Carlos Ahinkra.
Okay.
They've had a relationship for quite some time.
So it's purely relationship based.
I'm saying that some are.
Okay.
Some candidates made a conscious effort to sort of build a groundswell of followers even before this whole thing came about.
Right.
I, for example, Dr. Bawumia engaged me as a young person a few years ago. He never discussed presidential ambitions with me or anything. But anytime he came to the United States, the way he engaged me sort of allowed me to build an affinity for him. So naturally, without anybody telling me to support Dr. Bawumia, I felt within me that if ever he presents himself, because of the relationship he's built with me as a young person, I'll support him. We always talk about government machinery. Look, if Dr. Bawumia was a bad person, it would have equally gone against him. We always look at one side of the coin. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Assuming Dr. Bawumia was an arrogant, irresponsible, incompetent, all kinds of thing. He is the candidate who has engaged with almost every DCE or MMC and almost every minister and every CEO. He is the candidate who has done that. So, Moro, ask yourself, if Dr. Bawumia was a bad person, don't you think him being an establishment, quote unquote, would have gone against him? Don't you think people would have come out and said Dr. Bawumia is arrogant? Because in Ghana here, people will come out and define who you are and say that you are arrogant. Oh, when he came to my constituency, the way he treated me, the way he spoke to me, he didn't even
the point
greet
I'm
me.
making is that the vice president has earned it
He's
by virtue of his relationship skills.
Exactly, he's earned it.
It
Because
is not anybody who's telling people
of course,
to follow him.
Of course, he's worked with people.
Okay.
So if he had a bad habit, if he was a bad person, by virtue of being a vice president, it would have gone against him.
Okay.
So somebody consciously builds relationship over a period of time.
Right.
And he's bearing the fruits of that effort. And it's being translated to mean that somebody is coercing someone. We have gone around the country and we are still traveling. We have gone to places where candidates don't support him.
That's democracy.
And they make it clear that they don't support him. In some instances, they will do one or two things, it almost as if they want to sabotage the effort. They make it clear he's still the vice president, but they don't support him. But it's not because
And you're fine with that.
Of course, it's not
Yeah.
because they hate him.
Right.
It's because they have an attachment to a person. I'll give you one example. We went to one constituency. The chairman there supports one candidate. And he doesn't support the vice president. And we know. So we sort of try to understand the rationale.
Right.
It turns out that the person he supports did him a very, very important favor way back. So they've sort of built a relationship over a period of time.
He's become very loyal to him.
And he's become very loyal to him. So when he stood up to speak, he said, Mr. Vice President, if you win, I will support you. But he didn't come out categorically to say that I support you now. He said, if you win, I'll support you. Because you have everything it takes. Clearly indicating that he sides here.
Right.
So please, we cannot always look at one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the vice president built relationships over a period of time, including with people like me, who at the time were nobodies.
So he sowed some seeds.
Yes.
And he's now reaping it.
Yes.
He's now harvesting it.
Yes, and before my brother comes in,
Yes.
I met the vice president in 2012.
Okay.
2012.
We're in the States.
Yes, in the States. He came there to campaign. There are people in his office now he didn't know from Adam. He met them in 2012. Somebody like Augustine Blay. He met him that time. And they cultivated a relationship. And they've nurtured it till now. Somebody like Mujib. They met I remember Mujib was the person who was assigned to drive then Mr. Baumia.
Right.
Or Dr. Baumia.
Right.
They didn't know each other from Adam. They cultivated the relationship there. That's how I also met Dr. Baumia. That's how I met Sir John. That's how I met Anthony Cabo. On that trip. And I built relationship with them, and then including Dr. Baumia.
All right.
And anytime he saw me, even though I was a young boy then, he would hold my hand, Kofi, how are you? How's everything? That is the person we are talking about.
Okay.
So it's important
Okay.
that we look at all sides
Right.
of the coin.
Right.
Yeah.
Adele, I'll give you some 5 minutes for us to wrap up on this because our time is almost up. So,
Very well.
So are you convinced? Relationship built over a long period of time?
It's a difficult one,
Okay.
that particular one that Kofi indicates, because, in our setting, we believe that when someone does good to you, you must replicate, in any means that you can. And so it gets really difficult that somebody really pulls you close to home, assists you, perhaps pay your school fees and all of that, and then it comes out and says, oh, I would like to contest. And then you say, well, I know you want to, but I don't support you. I support this other person.
You have to be grateful.
It's kind of awkward. But you see, to be grateful comes with so many other things. I pray that it gets to that point, where as young people and as Ghanaians, we're able to differentiate between the two. And I'll give you an illustration, Moro.
Okay.
Moro, say you have a son. You love him, okay? He probably learned a little bit of masonry here and there and all of that. He's your son. You love him. You decide you'd want to build a skyscraper. Your son comes, says, let me handle it. You get an engineer from outside who also comes to say, let me do it. You don't offer it to your son because he's your son. The basics should be that who can actually build the skyscraper.
Right.
Especially when after building the skyscraper, you're not the only person who is going to live in it. And you'd have the lives of other people in that building. And for any reason, should it break down, you'd have risked the lives of other people. So perhaps we should get to that point where I can say, well, Mr. Vice President, you've really supported me. But looking at the grounds, I don't think it's good enough. If you sincerely, you see, I want...
Precisely.
Tonto,
precisely.
I want the argument to be that, okay, he's helped me, he's supported me. I am supporting him because I sincerely believe he can do it, not because of what he's done for me. That's what I'm trying to establish.
Moro, my brother, if you
I
listen
think
to me
the
well, I
explanation
said
was
that.
giving us about why he got it, why he got attracted to him.
I'm coming.
Not necessarily why he's throwing support. As for the reasons why he's throwing, he can go on and on and on and on.
So you indicated earlier, for example, right?
Say what?
That you indicated earlier
Yeah.
That because of the relationship that you've built with him over the years, and then you indicated that the other people that he has supported, and then you mentioned people perhaps, because he supported that person, he met him at that place, and it is difficult for you to turn your back. I'm only giving you another. I'm only giving you another look to it.
It must go beyond that.
Exactly.
No, I get you, my brother, but there are ingredients in it. I didn't delve into the ingredients.
Yes.
Okay. So,
but I'm just saying that he has had that relationship with people. And when people align with you, there are various reasons why they like you.
I'm not disputing
And
that.
so we can discuss the ingredients.
Tonto,
I didn't go there, but we
Tonto,
can.
no,
Yeah.
see, it is incumbent that I do this. You know why? Because we're educating the public.
Of course.
You had an opportunity to indicate that because you didn't, somebody, for example, like me, would have concluded the way that I have concluded because you didn't go into the issues. So I'm
Okay.
If you would allow me, I'd appreciate that. So Moro, we need to get to, and I'm not saying this just you. I'm saying this as a nation. Like, we need to get to that point where we can look at who is it that can actually handle the state. Because you're looking at the resources.
So go beyond who are
Go beyond who
can do the job.
To who can do the job.
Yeah.
That's one.
So my brother, let's
Oftentimes
since
when
you
waste my time.
No, since you
No,
said
this
you
is
are
my
educating.
I think it's
no.
a general comment he's making.
No, since you are making you are making a very valid point.
Yeah.
And because we are educating the public.
So can I land? Then you can come into
Okay,
it.
I don't think we have time. That's
We do.
You see,
We do.
unfortunately, the reason why Kofi is sorry, and maybe we'll have to end here. But
Right.
even though I get the point you're driving on.
Right.
But I think the reason why Kofi is coming back on
Right.
this matter is that let's be careful we don't create the impression
Right.
that they are just following the vice president as yo-yos or as zombies.
Okay, so
and that
Moro.
the affinity and their love for the vice president goes beyond what is done.
Moro,
That's
Moro,
the
I'm
point.
coming.
So
No
I think let's
problem.
be careful.
No problem.
Otherwise, he will make him look like.
Moro, no,
Exactly.
Moro, I get that. I
Yeah.
get that.
Even it's an extremely important principle you're trying to establish.
Right.
But how I bet me are robbing off.
Yeah, yeah.
No problem.
Let's be careful.
Kofi, I get that.
Yeah.
But look at this. Look at this. Other scenario. Look at the other scenario.
minute, just a minute more.
Within a minute. Look at the other scenario when he indicates, for example, that for other people, who are in there, he's ended and all. That is why all these people are following
him.
Have you thought about the fact that there are other people who are just following and showing face because perhaps they are scared if they don't? They probably will not.
That's legit.
That's legit.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that those conclusions are difficult for me, as an individual.
And I'll help
and my last statement on this, and then you can take the floor. My last statement on all of this is this: look, what if the president, when he called this presser, had said that, listen, I don't care who you support, because obviously some people are supporting Alan,
Right.
some are going for Ken, some are going for Bami. I don't care who you support.
Right.
If you are my appointee, I don't want you out there campaigning for somebody. That would have been more convincing.
No, he just said if one person
Says, listen, if there's
He's
any
there,
one
so there's
person,
one person.
if there's any one person I have told,
Yes.
but the president knows that it is not possible. It is not possible for him to say
So-
that he hasn't even had this
So you don't-
conversation
so
with
basically
anybody.
you don't trust the president.
No,
Okay,
please.
So Moro,
Kofi, just 30 seconds.
when you talk about trust,
Yeah.
when you talk about trust,
Yeah.
Right, Kofi.
and not trusting the words of people, President Mahama built a 10 billion skyscraper. I hope you can show me where it is. No, you are talking about credibility. He has none.
I get it.
But lastly, let me make a point.
Okay.
The point I'm making is, I'm Abena, the deputy finance minister.
Yes.
She's
supporting
there.
Alan.
Railway minister.
Yeah.
He's also there.
Yeah.
There are several appointees
Who are
who
supporting
support
Alan.
other candidates.
Okay.
So if your argument is
Mahama-
valid, they should have been fired a long time ago.
Moro, so
But
Mahama-
if you
so
want
Mahama-
credibility,
Mahama-
go and ask Mahama where Hope City is. Go and ask Mahama where Hope City is.
People call you and say they took you off.
Let's say granted that Mahama did that, and then you came and you are doing the same.
Thank you very much. My name is Aldi Moro. Thanks for
He
watching
who
another
calls for
edition
equity must
of
come with
Inside
clean hands.
Pages. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, Saturday, hopefully, Kofi Tonto and Adele will be back. Have a good